Hello, everyone. This is Darcinovia here, and we have a surprise guest, Connor Gillis. Introduce yourself.
Yo, I'm Connor Gillis. I'm everyone's favorite revisionist, Marxist-Leninist queen, hate dogmatism, love the multipolar movement, love dunking on people who don't know what they're talking about, and love informing everyone and being as objective as possible and standing in solidarity with my comrades. That's me.
I I completely agree with that. Now, to start this off, me and Connor had a discussion before the stream started about, well, the ultra question. I don't know even know what better way of calling it, because for the past 6 months, though, I've been seeing the word ultra being abused, and to the point where it means as much as Nazi these days. I mean, if
Yeah.
everyone's an ultra, then nobody's an ultra.
Right, exactly. And, anyone who's familiar with my work knows that I've certainly used the word ultra, though I've stopped using it as much as of late for this very reason. And I feel like now every time I use the term, I have to really clarify what I mean before I can continue using it because of it's just hyperbole now. It's lost all meaning. Like everyone's a Nazi, everyone's an ultra. Everyone I don't like is an ultra. Everyone who's not Marxist-Leninist is an ultra. That's not how it fucking works.
Well, even other Marxist-Leninists are accused of being ultras by these people, and it's ridiculous. And I'm just gonna say it. I blame Caleb Maupin completely for this. He enabled this to the point where there is no good faith discussion. Honestly, when there's a disagreement, you just resort to insults or calling someone an ultra. It's like what? It's like there is no discussion to be had.
Right. And, we're Marxists. At least most of us are. And I think even if we're not, we want to come to a truth. That's sort of what we're all about. And when it comes to using the word ultra, short for ultra leftist, it's like, where did this word come from? What did it mean in its original intent? And how is it being used now? And why has it lost this meaning? And where the hell do we go from here?
Because I never heard I knew what ultra left was, but I never heard it being abused until Caleb Maupin, started using it, on every, leftist tendency that he disagrees with.
Right. And, ultra is just like, basically it's, if we want to be more specific, it's just shooting left, right? It's everyone whose ideas are a bit more, if you're on the left and someone has ideas that are more radical for you, the Marxist-Leninist crowd will tend to turn towards what Caleb does and calls them ultra leftist. Completely misunderstanding what the original intent of the word was and what ultra leftists actually like, because who gives meaning to the words? It's us as people who use it. And so now that it's lost all meaning, it's like, is this term even useful anymore?
You want an example of a real ultra leftist? Black Hammer.
Right. It has that wrecking quality to it. It has an individualist quality to it. It has a quality to it to where they say we have a correct idea for the future. We're not going to adapt to the masses. The masses are going to adapt to us, and we are going to lead it. And it's almost like a. Do you know who Blanky is? He was the. Yeah,
I don't know enough about him.
He was like a conspirator. Like the Blankists were like conspiratorial communists, right? They believed in like an ultra circle, like conspiracy at the top of society that would overthrow it. Like they didn't believe in mass politics.
That is so funny.
I love Specky V. Specky V always has the funniest comments.
Yeah, well, I think they would have rooted for the Empire because the Ewoks were ultras.
Yeah, the Ewoks ultra anarchists. God, they're just anarchists. They don't know anything. Their uncivilized way. We have to bring our civilized Eurocentrism to them in order to enlighten them on our correct dialectical ivory towers. Y'all.
Well,
Oh.
I think the issue I have, at least with these people that use the word ultra, it's like just advocating like reading the wretches of the earth is, which in my opinion, I don't think any Marxist, you know, should call themselves a Marxist, a serious Marxist Leninist, if they don't actually read, the wretched of the earth, because it's an important part of Marxist Leninist history. Like it
Well, of course
influenced the
it
Black
is.
Panthers.
If we don't understand the wretched of the earth, and we don't understand Pantherism, and we don't understand the praxis that was born out of this, and specifically decolonization and national liberation, that's where these ideas came from. And they came from people that were not the classical heads of Marxism. They didn't come from, Asia or Europe. It was a whole new perspective on things based in the sensibilities and understanding of their own communities. And it was way more radical and it was way more correct. And if it hadn't have been for COINTELPRO, it would have kept on and probably would have succeeded. It was much more. They had a much more correct line than the CPUSA did that back then, and I'm a CPUSA member.
Well, don't take this the wrong way, but I honestly believe the Black Panthers were the only party that actually progressed far, to a far enough where the U.S. government was scared of them.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. They are the Pantherism is the most advanced. Example of Marxism-Leninism in the North American context. Full stop.
Yeah,
and if it hadn't have been for COINTELPRO, which we were not as well versed in back then, and now we are, so we won't make that same mistake again. But I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the only reason they were targeted so hard is because they would have succeeded. That's the thing. They were doing everything right, except for the OPSEC just wasn't at that standard, unfortunately.
Well, I just don't understand, the supposed Marxist Leninists. I'm not why they would disregard a huge part of their history, because the Black Panther Party is a huge part of American Leninism. Why would you disregard that?
Because people have this tie-up, right? They have this tie-up about following the party no matter what. And they took this example, or participating within the party no matter what. And where did they get this example from? They got this example from post-revolutionary societies where the vanguard party held state power, and working within the party was your realm of political participation. But we don't live in a post-revolutionary society. They are advocating for loyalty and dedication to a party that is not only doesn't hold state power, but isn't even that popular. And so, like, I think that a lot of the mistakes that came out of this Cold War era, and that is definitely brushed off into this day, has a lot to do with the fact that they were so tied to the Soviet model or even the Chinese model that held state power that they ignored the fact that they had no state power at all. That's something that, like you can't. I feel like party politics are complex because, yes, being a revolutionary within a political party, you're dedicating your life to that. It's a full-time job. You're a professional revolutionary. But at the same time, you can't treat it like it is that it is a state power wielding entity. You can't treat it like that, and that's what happened with a lot of these people. Is they were trying to emulate what was going on in post-revolutionary societies when they had not even, prepared for a revolution of their own, and that's why groups like the Black Panther Party just blew past them in the '60s.
I think it's quite a shame that that these people just disregard their achievements. In the short amount of time they have existed, they accomplished more than the CPUSA did in like a century.
Well, outside of the 1930s, I think people really forget about the 1930s. CPUSA that was our heyday. That was like I suggest everyone go read Hammer and Hoe. It's about the movement in Alabama. The biggest party section in the country in the 30s was in Alabama. It was because the black population. It was way different back then. I think it was before they got bogged down with sticking so close to the Soviet line. I feel like that was a mistake for so many parties. It was relying too much on what the Soviets said and what the Soviets believed, and less upon what their own communities said. And why do you see the Black Panther Party doing so much in such a short amount of time? Because they went right into their communities. They went right to the core of them. And they did mass politics in the streets, right there with them. And that's something that the CPUSA hadn't done since the 30s. During the United Front era, they were too busy supporting FDR against, the fascism. That's a whole different thing. Post-war, it was de-Stalinization, and that fucked up a lot of parties, and it was just a mess. And I feel like that a lot of those qualities that came out of that time, that post-1930s golden age, really fucked up the party. And what else really fucked up the party was the new left. And they saw the new left coming, and they associated the Black Panther Party with the new left when it really wasn't. The Black Panther Party was an organic thing, as opposed to the new left being a very student-based thing and ultra. Well, I would say ultra. But the Black Panther Party wasn't a part of that new left. But you go into these Marxist-Leninist circles, and they still talk about it like it was.
Which is ridiculous, because why was the government afraid of the Black Panthers and not the CPUSA? Just think about it.
Right.
In my opinion, I don't think a communist party in a pre-revolutionary society has legitimacy if they are tolerated by the state.
That's a good point. I don't know if I agree with that, but I mean I totally understand that point. I understand. I mean, the way I understand things is that there is during the protracted struggle, there is a period of legal struggle, and there's a period of illegal struggle. Now, how that comes about, I believe it's a very organic process. I don't think you can force it, but I think
I just feel like when you're,
yeah.
I just feel like when you're tolerated by the government I just don't think you have as much legitimacy as a party that isn't, because the Black Panthers, they actually practice mutual aid, which is like something that not I don't see any communist parties have done since that the Panthers, and there's a lot to learn from them.
We do that. I mean, a lot of communist parties do it, but no one was as effective at it as the Black Panthers, because no one else understood what serving the people was actually about. It wasn't just about winning support. It was about connecting with the masses and listening to them, appealing to their sensibilities, adapting your politics based off of your interactions with the community. And I think that that's the big separation point between the old party and the Panthers and Pantherite style groups that really focus on like what's going on in the community and talking with them. And I think where the CPUSA is held back is the only real place where they do that is in the trade union movement. And as we know, this country is deindustrializing, and the trade union jobs are all being exported to be exploited for cheaper. And well, we're here. We're in this position where the Marxist-Leninist classic stronghold, where we did have our ears on the beating hearts of the masses, is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And we no longer have our ear on the beating heart of the majority of this country, because the majority of this country isn't in that classical Marxist wheelhouse anymore. And this is where the dogmatism is holding them back to the extreme. They need to re-examine the position of lumpen and lumpenized workers within the revolutionary context of the United States. They really do. Otherwise, they're going to be left in the dustbin of history.
Well, I just feel like these people are stuck, in the mindset of the 1930s, and
Yeah,
not, or looking at other countries and wanting to emulate them. And in America, it's such an uphill battle. America is the most anti-communist country on the planet.
yeah. Next to like the illegal states in Southern Korea and in Taiwan, like I can't think of many that even come. They come close, but not nearly as close. The USA is, the mastermind of anti-communism. They really are.
It's like this. It's ingrained in the culture. It's like, how do you fight something like that? And I don't think these people have any solutions. You could out of the movement into the masses. When you hear it in the context of America, it's vague to me. When Mao says it, he means the Chinese masses. He means when you hear it in America, the context is not the same.
No, it's not. It's not. I think that idea really has a great. I mean, in this country, I think that there's one thing that will come long before any socialist revolution, and it's going to be uh, the struggles for national liberation that will come first. And so into the masses for these people means into the masses of their nations and their communities. It doesn't mean all of us. It means some of them trying to determine, the fate, trying to free their peoples from the domination.
I just interpret it as white people. That's what I see when I hear out of the movement into the masses by white leftists. That's what I see. I don't see it as the masses. They mean white people.
Yeah. I mean, when I say masses, to clarify. I actually think I clarified this to you a long time ago on the Falcone Stream or something. But when I say masses, I mean people who survive, by not exploiting others. That's the masses to me, and so that excludes a lot of people. A lot of people won't like that. But also at the same time, like, first and foremost, I understand that the primary contradiction is imperialism, and colonialism is one of its disgusting parasitic appendages, and we have to achieve this national cultural autonomy and liberation for these groups determined by them and in the way they decide before us as white people need to have a chance to even have an opportunity to determine anything. Because, for these MLs, look back at Lenin on this. He made it clear that there cannot be socialism while nations are oppressed inside that same space. Like oppression and socialism, oppression of the masses, I should say. We do oppress the certain groups of people, but that's what the dictatorship of the proletariat's all about. But you have to dictate over someone, right? And that's let's point to that, ultras, right? Ultras are people who think after revolution we should have our communism. We should already have the productive forces should have already shifted and all these things. They don't understand it's an ongoing process. And
honestly,
yeah.
I actually think the transition from socialism to communism would take at least a few centuries because you'd have to completely.
It's beyond the purview of individual lifetimes. This is what even the construction of socialism, right? Like what people need to realize is the revolution can take a day. It can take 5 minutes to take state power, but to build socialism, construct socialism, and build a new world to change the productive forces to begin to slowly erode at class contradictions, that takes beyond the purview of our lifetimes. But that doesn't mean that we can't accomplish a lot of good right now, a lot of immediate demands, a lot of immediate successes. But the entire process of shifting society from one stage to another is just a massive it's in a massive human global scale effort by all of human collective effort by humanity. It's not just as so simple as we did revolution. Now it's time.
I'd argue we would have to do 5-year plans in certain phases. A global wide cultural revolution would have to be done before we can even think about going to the transition, because all this culture of capitalism, and individualism, it would take generations to stomp this stuff out, because you would still have, the children or the parents or the grandparents of the people that are counter-revolutionaries. You would need multiple generations to let their ideas die out.
Well, look what happened to the Soviet Union, right? Like we can see just by that it takes more than it takes a long time to root out these people. It's not easy, and they've made a lot of mistakes. Don't get me wrong. That didn't help them at all. But you're right. I believe that we haven't truly achieved, late stage socialism until we've enfranchised the masses with political, cultural, social, and economic power. And what that means is the power means the ability to determine their fates, enfranchising these people. And like it trying to like imagine all of this transition to socialism happening within your lifetime and like communism coming like on the horizon. Unfortunately, that's something that a lot of ultras hope for, and that's that individual aspect, that they want to be able to see it and they can achieve it, and that's why they trend towards these things, I believe. I don't think it's out of hate. I think it's out of, just wanting to get themselves out of this fucking fresh hell that we live in. I don't blame them at all, but unfortunately, this process is going to be hard. It's not going to be paradise after we achieve state power. It's going to be hell. It's going to be a long, hard road. But what we will do is be able to change humanity, save this planet, and help it last for thousands of more years, instead of dying, have generations and generations of more people living lives without suffering or exploitation and oppression. And it's our duty to set up these future generations so, at least the next one after us is set up in a better position than we were. So their lives will be a little bit less fucked.
As cliche as this is, communism is building the world of tomorrow for the children of tomorrow, and not for ourselves. Even hell, not our if any of us have kids, our children will not live to see it. Our grandchildren won't live to see it. Our great grandchildren won't live to see it. It probably would be like your descendants, like 200 to 300 years from now, would probably be able to see it, but we would not be able to see it. It's folly. In 100 years, because you can't build socialism and go from that to communism afterwards, because there's still a lot of forces out there after the collapse of capitalism that's going to fight tirelessly to revive the system. And we have to make it so their ideas are so weak that they'll never have a chance to take power, and they're not going to stop. The capitalists don't care if all of humanity dies to preserve their privilege. They don't care.
Absolutely. And they'll literally destroy the planet. They don't give a fuck. They're inhuman.
They'll sacrifice their own children and grandchildren just to keep their wealth. That's how inhumane they are.
Exactly. I mean, to hoard that much wealth in the first place, you have to be sick. I really believe that takes some sort of evil. And that's just, my religious perspective. But I really want to say that these people don't disappear. Their ideas don't disappear overnight. And when you say cultural revolution, I just want to caution people that he's not talking about mobilizing the children of the Red Guards to go beat up their teachers. He's talking about transforming the culture of society by building a new culture and that takes time. And the same with at the same time that takes, it will take for us to erode these ideas, to proletarianize the petite bourgeois and the bourgeois. It'll take time, and
Well,
it's go ahead.
My idea for cultural revolution is 5-year plans for multiple. I don't know how long we would have to do a 5-year plan, but if I were to do it, a 5-year plan of this would be more focused on the younger generation, of educating them about an alternative way to look at the world besides this hyper individualistic capitalist bullshit
Exactly.
that we're living.
It really starts with education, right? Like that's the that's a fundamental part of society that like any post-revolutionary society immediately needs to attack, because we know the youth are the future. We know the builders of the future are the youth. It's just logic. And so they've been indoctrinated by the cultural hegemony of the former ruling class, or the current ruling class that would be former in the future. That's all of us have this innate liberalism and anti-communism that are born here. We have to unlearn it, and to the day we die, we have to keep unlearning this cultural hegemony that's been instilled in us. Gramsci really went into this great in his prison diaries, or prison notebooks. Everyone should go read Gramsci. He's amazing. But and so to break that cultural hegemony, we have to build a new cultural hegemony. The new ruling classes, that takes over society under a socialist society, the new ruling class, they have to build a new cultural hegemony to block out, those counter-revolutionary and reactionary ideas, and build these, like you said, these new ways of thinking and seeing the world that are outside of this commodified, disgusting, reactionary worldview.
If there's one thing I think the Soviet Union did right, was the 5-year plans.
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that they abandoned that, in my opinion, was the beginning of the end for the Soviet Union, because 5-year plans are very effective. I mean,
that's why Vietnam, Laos, Cuba, China, DPRK, they all still use 5-year plans, and they all still exist. Regardless of what you think of their base economies, they all still exist using 5-year plans. So there is merit in its usefulness.
And let's be honest, there's no way the U.S. government doesn't use the 5-year plans in their agenda. There's no way they don't.
Of course they do. There's large projections and stuff. It's just more free market and capitalist,
5-year plans is one of the most effective ways of building a society. And under socialism, if you do like 5-year plans continuously for enough time, you'd have the children, grandchildren and great grandchildren. I don't even like to use this word, but indoctrinated, if you want to talk about, because it has negative connotations. So I'll just use educated in a new revolutionary way of thinking.
Yeah.
But because the older ways of thinking will eventually die off if you do this, and if you still have people that cling to it, they're just going to be looked at as fringe and crazy.
Yeah, that's a fact. And what you're explaining is so distinct from like what everyone thinks when they hear cultural revolution, which is arrest all the Confucians and
I have a lot of issues with the Chinese cultural revolution.
Well, yeah, I mean, y'all, I have my video on it, and everyone knows how I feel about it. I feel it was horrific, and that's based a lot off of primary sources, but also speaking to former child Red Guards, people who were children in the Red Guards who were forced to kill their neighbors, family, friends, teachers, doctors, as children in extrajudicial killings. They had no choice. They didn't know what was going on. Like, let me ask a normal fucking adult American, can you explain Confucianism? No. Oh, imagine being a child and then being forced to go out and determine for yourself who's a Confucian or not, and then murder them based on that. Like, this is the horrors these kids were going through. And that's not what a cultural revolution is about. The cultural revolution will be vindicated. Will be vindicated by the way Dark Synovia said it would be, which is those
5-year plans.
5-year plans, but it would be vindicated by the fact that, well, where do correct ideas come from? Social practice. These correct ideas will be going forward. People will understand that those old ways of thinking are gone. And the people who still think like that, you don't need to kill them or imprison them. They'll just be looked at as fringe weirdos.
Okay, I don't think everything about the Cultural Revolution was bad, Maxwell. However, it's just my biggest issues with the Cultural Revolution primarily is I don't think Mao should have given as much freedom to the reactionaries that he did.
You have to understand about the Cultural Revolution is that Mao had nothing to do with that. That had nothing to do with Mao. Mao was being told it was being ghostwritten for anyone who's read Mao before and then reads his stuff after the mid 60s. All the poetic ways that Mao talks are gone. He starts sounding a lot like his literary critic wife, actually. And this is generally what people believe over there. That Mao wasn't in his capacity. By this time, Mao was in his 70s. He had no idea what was going on. He was old. He was a figurehead. The Cultural Revolution was instigated by a group of literary critics in Shanghai, labor aristocracy, that being the Gang of Four. And they criticized a play that you might have seen my video, Hai Rui is dismissed from office. And their criticism of this play, and they called for a cultural revolution to get rid of these reactionary ideals, even though it was a play that Mao loved. So, but they said it's because it criticized Mao. This wasn't the Cultural Revolution wasn't an organic thing. It wasn't a good thing. It wasn't based out of Mao's ideas. It was based out of a group of literary critics who ended up seizing power in Shanghai and creating the Shanghai Commune, and later took a complete state power under the Gang of Four and started things like the Three Worlds theory. So, people just don't really understand where the Cultural Revolution comes from. It's not some popular movement. No, and the children were mobilized by Lin Biao. So that makes it even doubly worse. And they were even put to worse work by Mao's wife and the Gang of Four. Mao wasn't in his capacities at this time. Mao hated people like that. Honestly, Mao hated that. He would have called them ultra leftists, like what our topic here is today. Because that's what they were. They were ultra leftists.
I really wish ultra leftist, the term is actually used in its proper context instead of being used as a slur.
Right.
Because
exactly.
to me, it's borderline racist, honestly, because most of the people that are ultra left are people of color.
Right. Like black nationalists and Filipino revolutionaries and Indian revolutionaries, and all these people that really they have no place speaking bad about. These people are fighting for their freedom, and you're sitting there fucking critiquing them from America in your nice house. Like, come on.
I hate to say this, but most of the communists of the world are not fucking white. Most of them are in China.
Most of the communists in the world are not white. Most people in the world are not white.
Yeah.
Communism needs to stop being about white people. It's not about white people. It's about the masses of the fucking planet. And
exactly.
white people need to stop fucking putting themselves so far ahead. This Eurocentrism that comes out of a lot of these tendencies in North America just reminds me of neo-Trotskyism. We will lead the revolution from the industrial center. It's like, no, you won't. Shut up.
Trotskyists are fucking cringe. I mean, seriously, it's like they claim that every country that's ever attempted socialism was never socialism. It's like, okay, you don't like
anti-communism is what it is.
You don't like how the Soviets established communism or Mao. What the fuck is your solution to preserve your revolution?
So this is another point I like to make, is that it's very easy to criticize ideas that exist in material reality when your ideas have never been tested by material reality, right?
Agreed.
So whose ideas have been tested in a post-revolutionary material reality? There's been several. I would say ML's I would say anarchists. I would say, I would even say third worldists, because I just believe MLs and Maoists from the third world are third worldists. Like, they're just without saying. Just by their very nature, they're third worldists. But I believe these things have been taken root in material reality, and so they have a leg to stand on if they have created an example and they've created something that is an alternative that is functioning and working, and a good thing. But if your ideas have never been tested, Trotsky's ideas have never been tested. I mean, there's never been a successful Trotskyist revolution. There's never even been a group that got close. They can't even stick together. They'll split before it happens.
Honestly, not all Trotskyists are bad. Oh God. I just blocked the wrong person. Oh shit. What do I do?
Did you block them or just mute them for a few minutes?
I blocked the wrong person.
Oh, Jawad! No!
I'm so sorry, Jawad. I'm so sorry I blocked you.
I'm pretty sure you can unban him. Oh, I see who you're trying to I see who you're trying to remove.
I was trying to remove a troll. It's like,
yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was never.
Oh, it's Bad Our Boy. I know Bad Our Boy.
I blocked him on accident. It's like, God, this is why I fucking hate these fucking fascists that invade, because they so many goddamn stock accounts appear. It's like, Jesus, get a fucking life.
Yeah, he put one of the Rosenberg's names on and then said David Duke for president. What a fucking piece of shit. Anti-Semites get the wall.
Anti-Semites don't deserve anything. Oh God. I don't know how to unblock this guy. Guest.
I think if you go on the YouTube itself and not StreamYard, you can unblock them.
All right.
Yeah, Bad Our Boy is a Lebanese Islamic socialist. Pretty.
I am really sorry for blocking you. I really am. There's so many damn trolls. I will fix it right now. Because this is why I cannot stand fascists, because they have nothing better to do with their time than to troll, in comment sections.
Yeah, it's true.
But anyway, let's continue the topic we were discussing.
Oh, of course. Something much more productive and cool.
Yeah.
How to defend revolution. Have a glorious chairman vouch debate the White Army.
I don't know how anyone could take that fucking clown Voss seriously.
It's just a lot of teenagers, liberal teenagers, who think radicalism is neat.
They view radicalism as a phase.
Yeah, as a coat of paint. It's just an aesthetic.
Exactly.
When you're a revolutionary, you have to dedicate your life. It's not. Yeah, being a revolutionary isn't LARP. It's dedicating your life to bettering the world. And if you don't do that, well, you can't really call yourself a revolutionary if you don't. Of course, everyone has limitations, right? We have financial distance limitations. Sometimes some of us can't travel, but we all have methods that we can take to contribute, whether it's through socialist education or organizing people in spaces that are unorthodox, like online, for example. While very online people are horrible, online is also a great place to bring together people that would have never talked before. Our ability to speak to communists from the third world, or just people from the third world, and learn about how imperialism and colonialism affects them, has never been like it is before today. And we're in a unique position to show solidarity with these people in a way that's never been done before. And it's amazing. It really is.
I agree.
Oh, the comments are going wild. I got to check this out.
I have so many fucking blocked people.
Oh, Maxwell. I like Maxwell.
I seriously want to apologize to the person. I did not mean to block you. Jesus. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to fix this.
I think if you go on like if you have a phone or something, go on, or on the computer, go on Facebook, or not Facebook, geez, YouTube, and you can like go to that person's profile, like their account, and go to the settings and unblock them like that way. Because I've had to do that before because I've accidentally blocked someone who I liked.
Yeah, it's just this fucking YouTube. So I'm gonna have to physically go to the person's channel.
Yeah. You can't. I don't think you can do it from StreamYard.
I'm not doing it through StreamYard, actually.
Oh, yeah. I think you do have to. Gay marriage certificate rights activist. You should be in federal prison. Imagine being that afraid of gay people.
I know. This guy is a freak.
What a weak man. And usually the homophobic people are like closeted and they don't know how to handle their confused sexual or gender confusion, and so they just take it out on us. And you know what? It's pathetic, and frankly I giggle every time I see it because pathetic people like that deserve to be clowned on and made fun of.
They deserve to be mocked.
Yeah, they deserve to be doxxed, and they deserve to have repercussions for their words. And frankly, like they think that words like that bother me, like I'm a liberal or something. Like, are you kidding? Cuck boy? I don't fucking care.
Oh, God.
I'm a fucking trans Jew communist, trans Jewish religious Jewish communist on the internet. You gotta have thick skin. You gotta have thick skin. People fucking hate me. They say all kinds of nasty shit about me.
Jesus, Borman has so many damn accounts. I'm not even exaggerating.
Oh, Bad Our Boy's trolling. By the way, we just agree we don't like each other. He acts like a fucking reactionary. He's not. He just likes to trigger.
Okay, Bad Boy Gaming. That's the same guy.
Bad Our Boy. Fucking stop. You know you don't hate me. You know you fucking love me. Stop pretending like you hate me.
Okay. Okay, I am so sorry for blocking you on accident. I didn't mean to.
We'll get it fixed up for you, Jawad.
I'll try to fix it up. It's just fuck this.
Jawad always comes on my streams. Jawad's awesome.
All right, let's focus back on what the hell we were talking about. Ultra leftists. What the hell were we getting at?
Well, I think we're like, from the start, it's like it doesn't mean anything anymore. And, it used to mean people who wanted to basically inorganically accelerate revolution, and through it they wreck and destroy and don't progress and, are usually left in the dustbin of history. But now it just means anyone who doesn't follow the line of Caleb, apparently.
Socialism, sneakers. I couldn't resist. I had to say it.
Well, I gotta say, when you're living in China and you see all those Chinese brands that are like really close copies to the real brands and shit, and you go over there and they're like a quarter of the price, and you're like, fuck, this is awesome.
I actually agree with Maxwell Glover. We should call it left adventurism.
Oh, yes.
Leftism.
I do like that because it is left adventurism. And that's exactly what it is. Like the Symbionese Liberation Army. That's a left adventurous group. You know about them? The Symbionese Liberation Army?
They sound like a joke.
It almost seems like it. But they were like this super ultra leftist group from the 60s that kidnapped like the daughter of a rich guy, and she like became a member of them through brainwashing on purpose, and they did like terrorism and left adventurist bank robbing and bombs and shit, and eventually they're all put in prison, and it was like a sex cult, of course. One of these micro left adventurist new left things. There's actually a really good movie that talks to this. It's an avant-garde movie by Jean-Luc Godard. It's a French art film, but it's actually really good. It's called La Chinois, the Chinese, and it's about this like group of like Maoist terrorist cell of 5 people in France, young people in the six. It's a film from the '60s, like in '69, and they talk a lot of theory, deep theory and shit, but it really shows the detriment and like the ill effects of ultra leftism, or I should say left adventurism, and what and this attitude and what it does to people. And it's a really interesting film. It's called La Chinois by Jean-Luc Godard, and actually I think it's a really good one. Jean-Luc Godard was like a Maoist. He was a Maoist during the New Left era in France, and he made a lot of these films, but it was also like a critique of his own people. So it comes from a place of love, and it's very interesting. And there's also a Maoist film about British Maoists by him called British Sounds. This stuff is really cool. Jean-Luc Godard and like the revolutionary left filmmakers of the 60s and 70s is very good. Like Petit Lavou. Sorry. I'll stop talking about French Maoist film.
Well, you want one of the first examples I can think of ultra leftism in action is I think any I don't know any leftist that doesn't know the Night of the Long Knives, where an anarchist burned down I forgot what it was, but it essentially was used as a justification by the Nazi Party to massacre, all communists, in the country because of what an anarchist did.
Well, that's a lot like the Reichstag fire. People suspect that it was set up.
It was set up, but the guy.
But yeah, there's this old idea from anarchists, and you're right. Earliest examples of left adventurism comes from early anarchists. Here's an even earlier one from you. A Serbian national anarchist who believed in the propaganda of the deed didn't start World War I, but it was a catalyst that led to open war. The assassination of Duke Franz Ferdinand. And yes, there were national anarchists back then. There still are, actually. It's weird. But and also just the propaganda of the deed. And you had people like the Blanquists, like I was talking about earlier, these Marxist conspiratorial people who believed in the propaganda of the deed, and like, once we do this amazing thing, like assassinate a political figure, everyone's going to be inspired and do revolution, and the revolution will be done tomorrow. That's sort of what they believed in. And there still are some small groups that believe in the propaganda of the deed, but for the most part, anarchist circles completely reject this idea. They don't like that sort of hero thing, propaganda of the deed, heroic people. They don't like that nowadays. But back in the day, in the early days, that existed. Yeah.
I don't know that many modern, anarchists that would support such a thing.
No, yeah. Modern anarchists are not tied to their like what I put in my anarchism video recently, defending it, is these founders of anarchism had different motivations. They had different ideas. There's a century of social practice separating them. These are different people with different ideas that, have a similar name. Their ultimate, but their motivations and ideas and methods are not the same anymore. It's just different. They're completely different. It's not honest for us to look back at, these people of the past, like the anti-Semitic Bakunin or the left adventurists, propaganda of the deedists of the past. These aren't not the anarchist comrades of today. It's a completely different beast. And yeah, left adventurists exist amongst all tendencies, I would say. That even ML.
The question I do have is, why is it that the Mappen cult, why do they shit on people that actually do actual work, that do real social practice? Why are they the ultras when they are doing everything in their power to protect their communities from fucking fascists or being massacred by fascists? It's like, it seems like I don't even want to call them MLs, but why is it that the communists that actually do actual social practice are the ones that are considered ultras? I don't get it.
I think a lot of it has to do with it goes back to this individualism, right? The people feel inadequate. They see people doing work that have different ideas from them. I don't think it's conscious. I don't think that they're thinking, I'm going to talk shit about them because they're doing better than me. I think I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I think there's something about seeing people succeed that have different ideas from you that fucking riles you up. I know in the back of my mind, whenever I see like a fucking reactionary succeeding, it pisses me off. So I guess for them, like, they don't really like what they consider ultras. And so when they see these people like out there in the streets, they're like, this doesn't lead to anything. You're just blah, 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 blah. Like, misunderstanding that these people understand that what they're doing, like serving the people programs and mutual aid, isn't going to lead to revolution. What they're doing is helping their community, learning from them, and uplifting them. And I don't know why there's such an aversion to that.
What the hell's up with the intense anti-Antifa sentiment from them? Because
I don't know what that's I don't know what that's about. It that's always freaked me out. PCUSA was about that. Like Angelo hated. I don't know if you're around during that time, but he fucking hated Antifa, and even made a whole class about how it sucked.
I just see like the anti-Antifa position as borderline fascist, because it's like, if Caleb Muffin's wondering why Antifa don't defend him or don't do anything, it's because why would they? When you're constantly shitting on people that are doing the actual on the ground work, while
there's literally nothing wrong with doing anti-fascist action.
There isn't, and I'm sorry to say this, but the masses are not always right. There's nothing in Lenin's writings or Mao that told us we have to cater to the worst aspects of the masses. And never, ever.
No. When we say we do the politics of the masses, we're not talking about appealing to reactionary sensibilities. We're talking about appealing to sensibilities that are, for lack of a better word, progressive, right? Things that we can pull people out of that reactionary hole with, not appealing to their reactionary positions that already exist. Our entire purpose is to clarify our position, and if we're correct and right, and we show them that, then we don't have to force anything. It'll just, the contradictions will overcome each other. The person will realize that, oh fuck, the ruling class is actually the people I need to be pissed off about, not like immigrants or anything like that. So let's fucking fix the problems. And when these contradictions overcome each other, people are not going to be as fucking angry anymore, right? When you don't have to worry about paying bills, when you don't have to worry about finding a job, when you have the ability to send your kids to school, you can get health care, you have food in your belly and a place to eat and a place to sleep, you're not going to be nearly as fucking angry at and trying to blame other people on your fucking issues. I don't know.
I just see that a lot of classism from these people that abuse the word ultra, because most of the people that they are shitting on are essentially poor people that don't have any power in society, that have no say on where everything goes. They're people that are constantly thinking about when is going to be my next meal. How am I going to pay my bills this month? How am I going to help my brother, my mother, or my children?
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Because the middle class are not the masses. I'm sorry, they're not the fucking masses. They're not.
They're while the middle. I don't really like the term middle class, but for lack of a better term, the middle class exists, right? It took me a long time to even come to this in my Marxist head, but they're a minority in this country. They're a distinct minority.
Increasingly.
Increasingly, of course, especially with the deindustrialization. The labor aristocracy is shrinking, and more people are becoming lumpenized. This shit's changing. You know, the United States, they don't need a domestic proletariat anymore, right? They need this disposable labor from the lumpen for like shit like Uber or waiter jobs and stuff. But they can exploit those industrial jobs and get away with it in countries they have imperial control over, for and get exploitation for pennies on the dollar. And so, where does that leave? You know, this classic working class in America. You know, many of them, I think, that they're taking our jobs. You know, like, they understand it's about economy, but they just aren't class conscious. You know, a lot of these people are so close.
And yeah, I agree with you, Spec TV. According to Mop and Antifa, yeah, it's like, who the hell thinks that Antifa are mostly people who get perfect grades in a university? That's such nonsense. It's why would a student in a university, why would they, okay, I'm not saying this to shit on anyone. Why would you go out to protest and jeopardizing your, you know, ability to go to that school or to graduate by protesting against the state? Why would you do that?
Because I was out of my mind. I did it.
Well, I'm just going by, according to Caleb's mopping, like, why would you do
Yeah.
that? Jeopardize that.
Well, I used to be a left adventurist back then, so to put that into perspective,
Yeah,
and
but
in my early college days. But
yeah, but that's not most of Antifa. Antifa
no,
come from
no.
various different backgrounds.
Well,
And Antifa,
I come from a working class background. I mean, I was in debt the entire time I was in school, and that's part of the reason why I was so fucking pissed off, because I could barely eat. You know, like I was hungry and angry, and looking for justice. And ever since 2009, I have been doing protests, anti-fascist work, mutual aid, community service through all different kinds of organizations with all different types of people. And let me tell you, there's no one I would rather stand next to than some fucking green-haired femme that's twice my height, because that bitch will throw down. Like, these people will throw down for you, and these people who talk shit about them are too scared to show their faces. These people will fucking throw down when you're in trouble. And I've seen people killed, right? I've seen people killed. Saw one of my greatest friends bricked in the fucking head and put into a coma and later die during one of these protests. That's why we're anti-fascists, you know? We were there for the Occupy movement. These people came to kick us out. We weren't the aggressors. It was pure defense. Anti-fascism is defensive. It's not offensive.
well, it's all these people that shit on the Antifa from the who are supposed leftists. I don't think they've ever touched grass. If they have, they've forgotten what it's like to actually be in those positions.
Yeah, exactly. And Caleb, what frustrates me is Caleb has touched grass. When I first heard of Caleb, he was out in the streets fighting for trans rights, like fighting fucking reactionary, literally fighting them. That's when I first heard of Caleb Maupin, when he was in the WWP. So just to give y'all some perspective about like how much he has changed, he's a different person.
What
Really is.
frustrates me about Caleb Maupin is I looked up to him. It was the Alexander Dugin, conference is what changed my perception of him. I've not been able to see him the same way since. I know for a time that it was ultra leftists that showed me that information. So in 2020, last year, I gave Caleb a second chance because, like, you know what, in my mindset at the time, it's probably just a one-time thing. I don't think he's actually a fascist. I don't think he actually,
He's not. He's not.
Well, I'm skeptical of Caleb Maupin if he is or not. I'm going back and forth.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's
just
just
what I know about Caleb, and he's been in the movement for so long, and he's literally stood out in the streets for people like me before and fucking fought. I'll always have a piece of respect for him for that, you know? Like, he's done work. And his, him interacting with Julian, I can't condemn him for that because frankly he didn't say anything that was damning. Like I think it's skeptical to hang out with someone like that, of course. I wouldn't do it. I'm not a big fan of Caleb. I disagree with him on a lot of stuff. But I'll always have a piece of respect for Caleb in the same sort of way that Jason does, you know? This mutual understanding of someone who's been in the movement for a long time, someone who's fought for people like me, and someone who really has done good in their time. And I don't agree with the path that he's taken. And I'm skeptical of him as well, don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's fair enough to call. I mean, you don't call him one. You're just suspicious of it.
Well,
So
it's just another thing that's suspicious. That's frustrating about with him. I want to like Caleb. I really do.
Right? Me too. Me too. I want to, but he's just so frustrating with the shit that he says. It's like, hey.
It's like that's just my issue. It just I don't like the. It's mostly the culture that he's spawned, which
yeah, I dislike his community much more than I dislike him. Right? He lets a lot of stuff slide. Let's just say that he lets a lot of stuff.
It's not what he says; is what he doesn't say is what pisses me off. It's like Jason. Whether you guys like or hate him, he's willing to call out his the bullshit from people of his audience. He's willing to do that. He's not willing to let it fester. Caleb won't do that.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't like to address people's concerns about him and his community. He doesn't. And that's why I don't spend time in his community. I check in on his videos, of course. Sometimes he's got great stuff to say. Sometimes he's got whack stuff to say. Generally, I agree with you that it's really this community, and not saying anything says a whole lot.